Hi, my name's Kim J and I'm a volunteer for RNIB and I'm also a visually impaired chef. Now today I'm going to make one of my favourite recipes that I make for dinner parties. It's chops masala. So I'm going to be using lamb chops. Now the ingredients that you're going to need for this amazing recipe is about 1 kilogram or approximately 2 pounds of lamb chops, approximately 85 grams of coriander, which we're going to chop, 4 green chilies, again we're going to chop that very finely, about 1 inch or 2 centimetres of root ginger, which again we're going to chop, 3 or 4 cloves of garlic, again we're going to finely chop, a large tin of tomatoes, approximately 400 millilitres, a large tub of Greek yogurt, approximately 500 millilitres. We're going to need salt, chili powder, turmeric, garam masala, cumin seeds and a little bit of oil, and that's all the ingredients we're going to need for this very simple recipe. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to prepare a paste using the garlic, ginger, chilies and the coriander. Now I'm going to blitz it down in a food processor. If you don't have a food processor, don't worry, just chop it down as finely as you possibly can. Now into the food processor I'm going to put my garlic, my ginger, my green chilies and the coriander. Now with the coriander, use the stems in this recipe. The stems have a lot of flavour and a lot of nutrients, and because you're going to chop it down very finely, it doesn't really matter. And it just adds a little bit more intensity to the flavour of this dish. All goes in the food processor and I will blitz it down. On the hob I have a large saucepan, big enough to take the chops with plenty of space. Now into that I'm going to put literally a tablespoon of ordinary vegetable oil and about 1 teaspoon of the cumin seeds. Now you're going to allow those cumin seeds to cook for about 30 seconds and you can hear them sizzle in the pan when they're done, and you can smell that wonderful musky odour of the cumin seeds. Now I can hear them sizzling, so now I'm going to put into the pan these chops, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to cook them for about 30 seconds just to seal the meat before I add the rest of the ingredients. Now these chops have been cooking for about 30 seconds, and into it I'm going to put the garlic, ginger, chilli, coriander mix. Now already you can smell the flavours. Now I'm going to add in the tin of tomatoes, give it a quick stir. Into that goes that large tub of Greek yogurt. Like I said, it's a really easy recipe to make. Now I'm going to add in about 1 teaspoon of chili powder. If you don't like it too hot, just a pinch would be fine. Totally up to you how spicy you want this. 1 teaspoon of salt, approximately half a teaspoon to 1 teaspoon of turmeric powder, and half a teaspoon of garam masala, and you give it a stir. And that's how easy it is. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cook these chops. Now it can take anything from between 30 minutes to about 1 hour and a half. It's all depending on how old your meat is, how big the chops are, and what you want to do is you want to keep cooking it until the chops are so tender that it almost starts falling off the bone. Now, every so often, give the pan a stir. If it looks as if the sauce is drying out too much, just add a little bit of water and keep cooking, and bear with it. Trust me, it is worth it for this dish. Lamb chops have been cooking for about just over an hour, and the sauce has reduced considerably. Now at this stage I'm going to check it, so with a sharp knife I'm just going to put it through the flesh of the lamb, and I can see that it's so tender it is literally breaking off as I'm touching it. So these chops are done. Now there are two ways of eating these chops. One is like a main course. So if you want some sauce with this, add a little bit more water. And the second way is as a starter. So what I would do is I would take these chops out, put it onto a baking dish, put it into the oven on 180 degrees for about 20 minutes so it gets a slight sort of tang of barbecue smoky flavour to it, and serve it like that. And these chops are now done. These chops are perfectly cooked now, absolutely tender. And you know I'm a vegetarian, but even the smell of this is driving me crazy. I can feel the saliva in my mouth. It smells amazing. The coriander, the cumin, the spices with the lamb, it is utterly delicious. And as you can tell, it is so simple to make. Now they do freeze well, as long as you don't freeze them with too much of the sauce. And great for preparing the night before if you're doing a dinner party and serving on the day. What do you serve them with? Well, you can serve them with naan, pita. If you have the sauce, rice is perfect, chapatis, whatever you want, or as a starters with a little bit of salad. And trust me, everyone's going to love this fabulous dish. Now you have a recipe for a great dish. But when you're in the kitchen, there are certain safety guides and rules that you should adhere to, and which keeps you safe. Now, one of the things that I do before I start cooking is I make sure that I've got shoes on that are sturdy with good grips. I make sure that there's nothing on the floor that I can trip over, and there are no spillages or liquid or condensation on the floor that makes it a bit of a hazard. Now, before cooking, the first thing that you do, as we all know, is wash our hands thoroughly. And especially when you're dealing with raw meat at every stage, wash your hands thoroughly. It stops cross-contamination. It keeps you and your family safe. When you're using the oven and the hob, know your oven and hob really well. Now, I use tactile markings so that I know exactly what temperature to put the oven on and what setting, so that I've not put the grill on when I should be putting the oven on. Now, with the hob, whenever you're sort of putting anything on the hob, make sure the handle is not sticking out. Now, I like to keep the handle at approximately 10 to 12. And the reason for that is it's not near enough to the unit for you to accidentally knock it off. It is not over another hob which may be on, so the handle's getting hot. So this is the safest position. Now, if you're boiling anything, be very, very careful. Don't fill the pan up too much. And if possible, use the boiler alert, which tells you when that liquid is bubbling away and it's hot, and it keeps you safe. If you're not comfortable with the hob and the oven, use the microwave whenever you can. It's a lot safer. And every time you are taking things out of the oven or from the microwave, because remember, plates and dishes get extremely hot in the microwave, use oven gloves. Now, I like to use thermal oven gloves. They're a lot safer. Don't be tempted to use tea towels or anything else. And they literally go to extreme temperatures, so you're very safe with them. Whenever you cut any food in the kitchen, use safe cutting methods. Keep the blade away from your fingers, so set it a couple of millimeters away from your fingers, and that way you're safe all the time. Now, if you're not confident with a knife, you can use appliances like food processors. Make sure you know how they work properly, and keep safe. And if you're still not confident, ask somebody else to do it. It is better to be safe than have an injury. If you have any cuts or you cut yourself whilst you're in the kitchen, put a plaster on it. And if you have a burn, run it under cold water. And if it's bad, you seek medical advice straight away. Whenever you cook meat, always ensure that the meat is thoroughly cooked, because you know, raw meat will give you food poisoning. Now, the best optimum temperature to cook meat is between 66 degrees and 73 degrees. Use a food thermometer if you're not too sure. They do have talking food thermometers, which you can get quite easily. And you store the meat as soon as you can. As soon as it's cooled down, store it straight away in the fridge and read the advice on storage on the labels.